The Full Melt Show is intended for a mature audience. It contains adult themes, adult content, and sometimes adult language. Listener discretion is advised.
It's the Full Melt Show.
Are you high? What are you talking about?
This is the Full Melt.
Give me a break.
The Full Melt Show. A marijuana discussion about news, culture, politics, and lifestyle. FullMelt.com. Toll free. 844-420-TALK. 844-420-TALK.
All right. Here we go again. It is Thursday, the day after 420, so that makes it 421. Welcome to another edition of the Full Melt Show, where today we will be investing our energy into what is new in cannabis culture. Is there anything really new in cannabis culture? I think it could be argued that there is nothing new in cannabis culture. An argument could be made that way. That this stuff has been around for centuries and millennia. In the some 5,000 years of recorded history of humankind's civilization on this planet, we have come to know cannabis as a constant friend and companion. And it's quite apparent to me, and it should be to you as well if you just look at it from the outside, that cannabis evolved all of its properties for mankind to ensure its existence. Why else would cannabis, or originally hemp, why else would these plants produce the very thing that our bodies are making? I mean, think about it. It's a smart evolutionary strategy, but it's a natural strategy. It's not one, if you believe in Darwinism and all that stuff. And I clearly do. I'm a man of science. And if you look at the science behind Darwinism, it's all there. I mean, just like, we know that we can do fusion. We know that it's possible to get more energy out of fusion than what goes in, which is what they're currently trying to accomplish. We know we can describe how atoms break apart, what happens when they do and when they collide, and when both fission and fusion. And so, but you can't actually see it happen, right? You can't observe it with your eye. It has to be aided. There has to be other empirical evidence, other proof that these atoms, either fused or broke apart and then either created a chain reaction or what happened to those pieces or that new whole when fusion has happened. And I'm just saying this because I'm giving you an example of the kind of thing that is necessary to prove things. So when you talk about, people are like, oh no, there's a lot of people that are heavy into the religion that want to entrust in the idea that the earth was created by God only 5,000 years ago or 6,000 years ago. See, when you go and you look at the record of the earth, you can tell that it's been here for some almost 5 billion years. So either there was a tremendous mistake made in the amount of time and it could be, but I don't think it's in this. I don't think the mistake is in the science realm. I think the mistake is in the religious realm. And if there's any accuracy to the religious version, it can't be 5,000 or 6,000 years. It have to be 5 or 6 billion years. Because indeed, when you carbon date these materials, and you wind back, the forces that created the Earth, you can see that the Earth has been here that long. I mean, there is what you call not only empirical evidence, but in addition to that, there is corroborative, additional, independent evidence that the Earth's been here that long. So I make that analogy for this reason, because it's a brilliant natural strategy if you believe, like I do in Darwinism, if you believe that people evolved and the plants and the animals of the Earth, and in fact, I think all living species evolved from much simpler life forms. I mean, there is a DNA record of this. You can follow the branching of the DNA, the genomes of each of these species. You can follow them directly back, linking all the way back to their origins. And in fact, people are doing that right now as we speak, writing the genome map. But all I'm saying is that this is a natural thing for the plant to want to do. If natural selection is the order of the day, and that's how things got here, what a brilliant thing for man to discover a plant like cannabis with all of its cannabinoids and then incorporate it into our own existence, ensure the production and future distribution of the seed of this plant. I mean, it's not corn's desire to be eaten that causes corn to be around in the form that we know it today, growing in ears on stalks. If you follow corn back, corn used to be the maize, the wild corn, as it originally was in the biosphere. Corn only was represented about 3 or 4 kernels on a stalk, and that was it. It was man's desire to hybridize this plant into a food source that was more plentiful in a cob form with many cobs on a stalk. We crossbred this for our own use. We kept breeding up the ones that had more kernels, and then eventually when you had kernels into ears, and then you got an ear on a stalk, and now you get a mutation where you get 2 ears, and then you start crossbreeding those, to get more ears on a stalk. I mean, that's how they do this stuff, and that's currently what's going on as we speak with cannabis, because nearly all the cannabis that we're growing in this country today, almost all of it, except for probably some of the wild grows, are hybridized versions of these seeds. In other words, they're selectively bred. The same way we do corn, the same way we do almost all other foodstuffs. The reason you get the bread and butter corn or the what they call bicolor corn, where it's extra sweet and it's really tasty, is because somebody bred it this way. This is done through selective breeding. And I'm just saying what an awesome strategy it is, natural strategy, to ensure the existence of cannabis for the world to have in future days. Because when you breed something, when you produce something that is naturally present within the body and that is necessary for human biological function, I mean, you look at the cannabinoids. They control certain features of your body. This is what we've discovered with the human endocannabinoid system. It's a system in your body that produces cannabinoids, lots of them. It does it in smaller amounts than you're familiar with in consuming it, either medically or as a recreational or an adult consumption activity. But either way, man kept this seed around and crossbred it and became friends with it, just like he did dogs and cats and other domestic animals in all food forms. If you're going to exist on this planet in the future, you're going to need these seeds. And I think cannabis should be amongst them. It certainly has stood this historical test of time. And so it is this plant, on that day yesterday that we celebrate because it needs to be celebrated. Look, if you can have Punchki Day, you're celebrating going into the fast of Lent by eating something that may sustain you through that starvation, that's high in calories and tasty. I mean, it's that celebration. This is a patient. Stand by. Hello, Justin. You got to know that I'm on the air, Justin. Hello?
I realize it's 7:12. I'm sorry. I'll call you back later.
It's 7:15. I'm on the air every day from 7 until 8.
All right. Sorry, bro.
Yeah, it's all right. I'm on the air. We got to go, though. I'll talk to you soon.
All right.
All right. Sometimes people just don't look at the clock. And normally I turn the phone off so that doesn't interrupt the show. However, today the phone is on because sometime coming up in the next break, we have something else to celebrate. And I think I've made mention of the need to celebrate this in the past, recently. In fact, we talked about it over a year ago when we had Senator Mike Folmer on from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania to talk about his extended attempt to bring medical marijuana to the Commonwealth. And he did this with Dalen Leach, who's a Democrat, I believe, also in the Senate. They put together Senate Bill 3. Senate Bill 3 effectively legalizes medical marijuana legislatively in the state of Pennsylvania. Now, they did this in a way that some people not agree with. There is no smoking of cannabis allowed. Now, you can vaporize. You can use concentrates. You can use it in pill form. You can use oils and tinctures, etc. They don't want smoking. I think this is fine. As long as I'm allowed to vaporize, I'm a happy camper. And you people in Pennsylvania should be very happy. And so they finally, Governor Wolf finally signed this bill into law on Sunday, just recently. So the reason that the phone is on now is because we're going to revisit what this legislation is, what it means, its effect, what the hell is happening in Pennsylvania with medical marijuana in a conservative state like this. Senator Mike Folmer comes back to the phones next after the commercial break to figure that out.
You're getting the full melt.
If you're like us, your pets aren't just animals. They're members of your family. Pet Pain CBD hemp oil drops are great for aging as well as active dogs and cats. Some people are apprehensive about hemp treatments for pets. They ask us, what are you smoking? Absolutely nothing, and neither will your pet. Like other hemp-based products for humans, the allure is all of the benefits of cannabis without any of the high. The CBD oil has shown to rejuvenate the bones, joints, brain, stomach, eyes, and heart. And the drops contain absolutely no corn, wheat, soy, artificial colors and flavors, or preservatives. Pick some up today. Visit petpain.com or ask for Pet Pain at your local pet store. Petpain.com. CBD relief for your pet.
When you need legal help, you don't want to guess at who's standing next to you in court. And when it comes to a medical marijuana defense, it's even smarter to partner with a lawyer before you need one. Based in Royal Oak, David Rudoy has a proven history of not being afraid to take your case all the way to the Supreme Court and win. Find the law offices of Rudoy Law
at RudoyLaw.com.
RudoyLaw.com is a quick reference on your rights concerning Michigan medical marijuana
and up-to-date news.
That's RUDOI Law.com. Call 248-935-9074 now and talk about your legal needs, because at RudoyLaw.com, we don't just stand up for you, we stand up with you.
What's up with these things, Victor?
We decided to give ourselves stickers for each feature we release.
We read about 10,000 suggestions a week to create features that, as traders, we'd want to use.
10,000 suggestions? Who reads all of those?
us.
He does.
For all the confidence you need, TD Ameritrade, you got this.
We need coffee.
Got it right here.
Cups?
12-ounce, 8-ounce recyclable.
Creamers, sweeteners, stirrers, filters?
Creamers, sweeteners, stirrers, filters, K-Cups.
Hazelnut, French vanilla, French roast, dark, light, medium, bold, extra bold?
And decaf.
Why would you say that? Why would you say that? Why would you say that?
No reason.
Free shipping for awards members every day. Staples. Make more happen.
It's the Full Melt Radio Show.
Radio show.
All right, so the question is medical marijuana in Pennsylvania. And the answers are here right now with Senator Mike Folmer. Welcome to the program, Mr. Folmer.
Well, thank you very much.
I'm certainly glad you had the opportunity to revisit our show and I have to congratulate you on the hard work that you, because I know this was one of the hardest things you guys have done in a long time, isn't it? Am I correct in that?
Well, this is let's just say this is probably one of the bigger policy shifts that we've probably done as a legislature since, I think, probably gaming.
Wow. Yeah, and when did you do the gaming thing?
Excuse me?
What, you said gaming?
Yeah, I think, that was a pretty big policy shift for Pennsylvania back, what was it, 2004, 2005-ish?
So it was right around the same time that Ohio did this, right?
Yes.
Same neighborhood. Because they worked for a long time at getting legalization done, too. I know I was covering that back in, 95, 96 back there when I worked at 3WE in Cleveland.
Right.
So you got this done, and I'm just, I number one, I had faith and trust in you all along. I really did. I know that there must have been times, Senator, where you were like, oh, is this going to get done? There had to have been times where you're like, oh, this is looking bleak.
Well, let's just put it this way. There were a lot of, no pun intended, a lot of highs and a lot of lows in the process going forward. And I think the biggest concern I had was, you have to understand that in Pennsylvania, this movement wasn't pushed by big dollars. There weren't any big special interest companies involved. This was done by pretty much, well, no, very much, by what I would refer to as a true grassroots citizen lobbying force.
Well, and again, no pun intended.
Right.
So,
Right, yeah, right, sorry.
Grassroots, I had to throw it in there.
Right.
You open the door, I'm walking through. So, tell us what this ended up being. I think what it is. Tell us what it ended up being, and maybe kind of how you arrived at that, if that's applicable.
Well, you mean where we are as far as a bill?
Yes. What did it end up meaning? What is the overall generalized effect of the law? Kind of a synopsis of it, so that people have a broad understanding of what it is.
I think what we're going to have in Pennsylvania, it's not a perfect bill. There are advocates out there that wanted some more liberalities in doing so, and from my perspective, I have to be honest. In my 2.5-year, almost 3-year journey on this, and in my own personal education, and speaking to some very quality, influential, well, not influential, but knowledgeable individuals. I really would be in their camp as far as wishing that it would be a little more liberal as far as allowing this plant to do what I believe God intended this plant to be done.
Right.
Now, after saying that, what we have, I do believe, is a good first step, and I think we'll have a workable program. We'll have a program where various diseases will be able to be looked at, and with the eventuality of adding new diseases going forward as warranted. I believe as we do go forward, I think you're going to see a program that will see that once we get this up and running, that the world won't come to an end, that the sun will still rise in the east and set in the west.
Right.
Dogs won't be sleeping with cats.
Right.
Wait a
minute. I got dogs sleeping with cats here, so.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, but maybe that's already happened. How about lions sleeping with lambs?
There you
How's
go.
that?
There you go. That's a good one.
There you go. So I mean, I think we're going to see that the world won't come to an end, and that all this anecdotal evidence that some people from the medical association say that that's all there is, they're going to realize that, oh my goodness, we could have been doing this all along. It's really a shame that it has been prohibited as long as it has been prohibited, and this goes back to the 1930s when they passed the
Marijuana Stamp Act. It was 1937.
Yes, exactly, Tax Act, and then it was totally taken off of the pharmacopoeia back in 1942, which at that time the AMA was pleading not to do that.
They were. They really were.
Oh yes, they were really screaming from the rooftops. But this is an amazing plant. You know what's really amazing about this, Steve, is that this plant is grown probably in every continent, and can be grown in every continent. Now, various strains. Yes, you have sativas, which do better around the equator, right. And then you have the indicas and so forth. But you even have some that can go up into the very farther northern regions where I cannot remember the name of the strain, but it flowers in 60 days.
It's Aurelius.
There you go. You knew it. I didn't. Way to go, Steve.
Look,
You're the man.
I'm immersed in this. You're not gonna pull a trivia question out I'm not gonna answer.
There you go. I mean, thank you for helping me out because I had the brain freeze there.
No, it's a lot of people call it auto-flowering marijuana. So it doesn't.
Well, there you go.
It doesn't require a 12-hour light cycle to flower.
Exactly. So going back to the point before I went on that little rabbit trail there, and I apologize
That's
for
okay.
that. Is that what we have going on here is that we're going to have a good workable program. The key is going to be getting the regs written up, and we're in the process of helping the governor, and the governor seems to be very, very willing to do so, and it's going to be a total team effort. This is not a Republican or Democrat issue here. This is about people and their lives. And
when you're talking about health and health care and the general welfare of the society at large, it cannot be a partisan issue.
No, it can't, and we have to make sure we get away from this fear of this plant. I mean, this poor plant has been given a moral attribute that it should never have been given. It's a plant that can be used and abused by folks. Yes, it can be, but I think I can name 1,000 different things that can be used and abused.
Food and water, and water amongst them.
Exactly, but I think this I will tell you this, Steve. In the 2.5 years, especially after we were at the farm show last year when a local alpaca farmer here in Lebanon County, where I'm from, donated their stand. They paid for the stand, and they donated to what is known as Campaign for Compassion. And we had an educational stand where we handed out over 4,000 pieces of literature, and it was very well done. And we were helped to educate folks. But here's what I ran into. I believe there's a lot of folks in Pennsylvania that use cannabis or marijuana illegally because they're suffering from like various anxieties. They're suffering from as using it for an alternative pain because they just hate using OxyContin, Percocet, and Vicodin, and basically just makes them feel whole again.
People use it for ADD and ADHD.
Oh yes, oh my goodness, and oh my goodness, like neuropathy and so forth for those folks with type 2 and type 1 diabetes.
Yes, absolutely.
Crohn's, MS. We knew for forever that it was a great anti-inflammatory, so it would help with arthritis.
It's one of the
not to cure it, but help you get through the day. In other words, this is about quality of life stuff.
Yes. Thank you so much. I mean that from the bottom of my heart, Senator. Thank you so much for taking the time to look into this, given the stigma attached. Because it's got this horrible, god-awful monster attached to the outside of the package, but when you open it up, it's nothing like that.
Well, and you know what it is? This is going to sound really crazy. And look, I'm going to be upfront and personal with you here. I'm a devout Christian.
Sure.
And my motto is I love the Lord my God with my whole heart, and I try to love my neighbor as I would love myself. But here's what I've seen. I've seen a plant, and then when I saw the plant and where it has been located, and for thousands of years, and literally from like the 8th century forward, AD has been used in various forms for medical purposes. And then when I learned about the endocannabinoid receptor system and how the cannabidiols and the cannabinoids and the terpenes and how they interact with that, like a key goes into a lock, I'm going, and look, there's something more here than just by accident. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And it was here for a reason. And then I realized that, my goodness, this is not toxic. No one can die from this.
Right.
This is some of the safest medications that people could be taking. It's not addictive physically. Yes, could someone become psychotropically dependent upon the psychotropic high, the buzz, or whatever? Yes, but you take it from them, they're not going to have to go through detox. They'll just be irritable.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
And for a short period of time, mind you. It's not going to be...
it's a very short period of time. It's when you look at the studies, the real science studies, the studies that were really use good scientific method, and they're starting to pop up everywhere. I believe the associations like the Pennsylvania Medical Association and shame on the American Medical Association, they're going to realize that, boy, we're looking pretty dumb here. And such, because when you really look at this, the worst case scenario by using cannabis is that it just may not help you.
Right.
It just may not help you.
Right. And actually, the worst case scenario might involve you getting some nice sleep, some rest, or be hungry.
Well, that too, and such. But here's what the beautiful thing of this is: because it is an organic plant that is not toxic. It absorbs into your body. That's why marijuana stays in the person's body for over 30 days, is because the body, in essence, says, hey, this is cool. We like it. It's okay. We don't have to turn we turn alcohol into water right away.
Right.
You know, and all the other stuff we try to get rid of. That's toxic. You know, and I believe this firmly, Steve, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, that we should not, well, let me just back up here. Your listeners should not be surprised that we have a heroin epidemic in this country and in this state. And that heroin epidemic is not because of marijuana.
No.
It's not even because of alcohol.
Nope.
It's because of Oxycontin, Percocet, and Vicodin.
And it's not even
back in the 1990s, when they allowed, the FDA allowed these type of opiates to be used for long-term pain management, which was never meant for it to be used for.
No.
Morphine and that stuff is great once you have an operation. I was very thankful for that morphine trip, let me tell you. But it was never meant for long-term pain management. You know, we make up about maybe 3 to 4% of the world's population here in the United States, but we use close to 80% of the prescribed opiates.
That's correct.
We should not be surprised. I believe that we have a heroin epidemic. I believe that this will help stem that back, especially our prescription drug overdoses. Well, we have the studies that show that already.
Yeah, 25% drop in prescription drug overdose deaths or opiate deaths.
And the longer it goes out, it gets higher and higher. And as doctors will be less afraid to use this in various forms, I think you're going to see that climbing ever higher. And here's another thing for the employers out there. In my travels, and I went out to Colorado on my dime. The taxpayers did not pay for that at all. It was all on me, and such. And as I traveled around the state, same way, I came across this, that folks who are using this illegally as medicine, because they're not doing it to get high. They're doing it because they want to feel whole, they want to feel human again, but they want to go to work. They're able to go to work. Right. They're able to do their jobs. I believe once we get over the stigma, and we're going to have to walk before we run, because we have 70 years worth of propaganda.
Right.
I think you're going to see a change that's going to be like a renaissance.
Well,
in medicine.
You've experienced it yourself, didn't you? I mean, it was a very short time ago where you were in the opposing camp on this.
Yes.
And it was mostly propaganda and stigma that kept you away.
Oh yes. I mean, let's be real. I mean, I bought into the whole, This is the drug culture. This is the gateway. This is so forth. And then when the two moms came to see me, and they left me a pile of information, I started reading this. I'm going like, oh my gosh, I've been lied to.
Right, and then we've all been lied to.
And we've been lied to. Yes. And it's really about special interest.
Yes,
that's what this was all about.
I don't know if you're aware of this, but the modern propping up, the underpinning through the Controlled Substance Act and everything else, and the classification inside the CSA of Schedule 1 is all the doings of President Nixon. This was an attempt to control the hippie culture and those damn blacks, as he said.
Well, that and let's really go back to why the whole bit about the 1937 Marijuana Tax Act.
Right.
Let's go really what was behind that. Before marijuana was called marijuana, it was basically like Indian hemp. You know what I'm saying?
Cannabis. People referred to it as cannabis.
Different names for it, but they gave it a Mexican name.
Right. A Mexican
slang. Wanted to demonize it.
A Mexican slang term. It wasn't even a regular term. It was slang.
It was slang.
Marijuana.
And that was done on purpose. But it wasn't really it was used marijuana or Indian hemp, but it was really to demonize the whole hemp family.
Right.
Because the Hearst, the Rockefellers, and the DuPonts did not want competition with this new sun natural resource that can be harvested every 4 months.
Look, nobody's making rayon and nylon if you got hemp on the market.
Exactly. And they didn't want the competition. So imagine, that's the other thing we're going to be doing in PA, and that's going to happen because that's overwhelmingly supported, is industrial hemp. And that's going to be another renaissance of actually going back in time,
right? Bringing
it into the 21st century because it can be used for so many things. Imagine having a biodegradable plastic. Imagine you can make hempcrete, which is like hemp cement, hemp wood, cloth,
hemp insulation,
you name it.
Insulation, yep.
Oh my goodness. Yes, that's not cancer causing.
That's correct.
And here's the beautiful thing. For all those folks, and even from my conservative side, that, I believe we need to be good stewards of the earth. I think we need to have proper domain over it, but you don't want to purposely try to pollute. Here's a plant that will not only restore nitrogen and so forth and important nutrients back into a soil,
right.
It also takes toxins out of the soil.
Yes, it's the perfect rotation crop, Senator.
Oh my gosh! This and it's like, man, we had this all the time. Why weren't we using this? And when you look at the history, and as a conservative, I'm going to shame on us. We bought into the special interest. And that, to me, that's crony capitalism.
It really
is. That
is.
is not free market. Free market would have been allowing hemp to let it go and let it do its thing, and we would have been a lot better off. And if we would have never had the Marijuana Tax Act, I really believe we'd be so farther ahead in dealing with epilepsy patients and so forth that we'd just be farther ahead.
Senator, we're going to break. I gotta put you on pause. Stand by. I'll be right back.
And those that every man should dare, from the beaches of Normandy to the far reaches of the earth. In my life, I have lived millions of lives. I've outrun robots and danced with dinosaurs. I've faced the faces of fear and fortitude and witnessed great beauty in the making. I've kept the company of kings and queens, but I'm no royalty or saint. I've traveled, trekked, wandered, and roamed, only to find myself right where I belong.
Jeep. See your authorized Jeep retailer for details on how you can become a Jeep owner.
We asked people to tell us something that happened in their past and something that might happen in their future. The good things were put on yellow magnets and the bad ones on blue. The results show the past was a pretty even mix of good and bad, yet the future was almost all good things. Now that you've seen the results of this experiment, what does it mean to you?
We all want to think about positive stuff.
Realistically, there will be down times.
It's great to think optimistically, but let's plan for whatever the future might bring.
Prudential, bring your challenges.
RootMetrics, in the nation's largest independent study, tested wireless performance across the country. Verizon won big with 153 state wins. AT&T got 38, Sprint got 2, and T-Mobile got 0. Verizon also won first in the U.S. for data, call, speed, and reliability. AT&T got text. Stuck on an average network? Join Verizon, and we'll cover your cost to switch.
Introducing Sacred Elements, a place for natural and alternative healing for the mind, body, and soul. Sacred Elements. It's one place, all solutions.
Registered, licensed, certified, ordained.
Sacred Elements.
Massage, hypnosis, Reiki.
Sacred Elements.
Raindrop, aroma and color therapy, body detox, ministry, life coaching, weight and nutrition counseling.
Sacred Elements. Next to the Sweet Leaf, 400 South Dordt Highway, Flint.
11 to 7 daily, closed Sunday.
Call 810-259-2570. Hey, it's Steve Green for the Sweet Leaf in Flint, because now getting safe access to medical cannabis patients in Flint, Michigan is never more welcoming. Presenting the Sweet Leaf, a brand new patient experience, bringing 12 carefully selected caregivers housed in 9 separate offices to distinctly assist you with their knowledge and reputation for excellent patient care. Classes and training coming soon in the large community room. Check it out in person, 400 South Dordt Highway, or call 810-259-2571. The Sweet Leaf Center in Flint, 810-259-2571. It's the Full Melt Radio Show.
All right, so we're talking with Senator Mike Folmer from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So I'm congratulating, along with Dalen Leach, in getting this done in Pennsylvania legislatively. I think this may be one of the best legislative packages I've seen come across the pike yet, Senator. So I've got to ask you, can you tell me what the deal is with how long this might take to implement? I saw in the news wire that you guys were looking at 18 to 24 months. Is that it?
Yeah, well, to get it up and fully running, and what we're trying to do in the meantime are several things. There's a safe haven for minors 18 years or younger if they are able to ascertain let's say an oil for epilepsy use and so forth, that they won't have a problem with getting prosecuted. And then in about 6 months, there's going to be an additional opening that up because we're going to have some temporary regulations put into effect by then. But to get the first full crop up and running and so forth, and of course we've got to do the regs and so forth, it's going to take a little time to do so. And that's unfortunate. Patients have waited a long time. I'm hoping, and what I'm really hoping is that now that we put it into law, that we're going to be heading in that direction, that the DAs will be more worried about real crime than somebody who is using it for either like anxiety or any of the approved things that we're looking at here, and go forward from there.
Have you heard any pushback from the law enforcement community about this? I'm sure they've had some input about this. What has it been?
Well, I'll tell you what. As far as law enforcement, the DAs had some questions, but they weren't horrible on this. That they had some questions. I mean, when you talk to a mother, and when you see, and we have great, and I guess I have to say it's anecdotal evidence, but
right.
It's actually happening. But of patients right here in Pennsylvania, you don't have to go to Colorado, you don't have to go to California, you don't have to go to any other state that it's legal in for medical purposes. We have people that have been using it because, as a parent, they figured they can't wait and their child's too important, and they were able to get safe access through various networks and such. When you see that, it's pretty hard. You'd have to be pretty hard-hearted to not be compassionate in that arena and understanding that. So from law enforcement, no big deal. And actually from the rank and file law enforcement guys, the guys that are out in the street,
right?
They really don't care. I mean, here's what the one police officer said to me. He said, I'd rather deal with a stoner. And this is not about recreational, but this is what his words, not mine.
Right.
He'd rather deal with this stoner because we can put him in the back of the squad car, we throw him a bag of chips, and they're happy. No one's trying to beat anybody up.
Right.
He said, you deal with a drunk, it can get very belligerent.
It really can.
And ugly. So law enforcement is kind of like, kind of neutral. I mean, I think the biggest pushback and is basically is that this is a shift now, and a possible shift in the view of Western medicine. And we've been told since the 1930s, since all that the only way medicine can be used is if it's derived from a petri dish in a laboratory somewhere, and we go through these various studies and we synthesize everything, because after all, I mean, nature can't be used anymore. That'd be like being a witch doctor. But I think that's wrong. I think we're finding out that there's some things that you just can't improve upon. There's some things you just can't. You can maybe understand it better and put your research and understanding it better, but you can't improve upon it. And I'll make this statement. I believe that if we would have thrown as much money as we have been throwing into cancer research, that we would have been thrown into research with cannabis, we may have seen some really, really, really great and less harmful strides in dealing with cancer.
Look, I was also fooled by the claim that, look, and I've been a cannabis supporter for a very long time from a medical standpoint. I laughed when somebody told me, oh, cannabis cures cancer. I literally laughed. I said, oh, come on, don't fall off the deep end. I was the guy that fell off the deep end. because
I mean, I ran into folks. We have a guy right here in the Harrisburg area, Randall Robinson, and he came out and said it. I mean, it was cannabis oil that he was given 6 months to live.
Right.
And so for cancer patients especially, it works best. To attack the cancer works best in a concentrated oil form. But it's I just believe that, and it's not that we're trying to improve upon what Mother Nature has given us, but rather it's just understanding it and how it can work with, and possibly even work alongside of treatments like with chemotherapy. I know folks that have been doing the double thing, where they're using cannabis and chemo, and so forth. So, but I do believe that if we would start understanding this and not be afraid of it, I think you're going to find. And I'm not calling this the miracle thing. But I do believe that because it is organic and it just fits in our bodies so well, like a key into a lock.
Yes.
That this will be beneficial for a lot of folks.
Listen, I've got to ask you, do you guys in Pennsylvania have something that mirrors the Controlled Substance Act inside of state law? Most states do.
Excuse that?
So do you in Pennsylvania? In Michigan, we have our own version of the Controlled Substances Act. It's state law that mirrors federal law on that level.
No, we kind of do, I guess. I'm not aware. But we're always afraid of what the feds do. I mean, that was the biggest pushback I have. Look, the FDA still has the Schedule 1. I mean, it's still the federal government still has the Schedule 1, and it's not FDA approved, and so forth. And because of that, a lot of your research hospitals are standing a little standoffish here, especially if they're getting an amount of federal money. Right. And the veteran hospitals are in the same boat.
Well, recently, I think, if I'm not mistaken, they've loosened that up. They're allowing veterans in medical marijuana states to use cannabis and not threaten to shut off their other medical supplies.
Well, here in Pennsylvania, they put a little stone wall up after the bill was passed.
Oh.
And I think that's a joke. And then shame on them.
Yes, for sure.
I mean, really shame on them. Can I tell you something really quick?
Sure.
And this amplifies that. And I think the Veteran Hospital Association here in Pennsylvania should just be ashamed of themselves. There was a young man, a Marine. He got out of high school, joined the Marines, served 3 tours of duty overseas. Was in a horrible crossfire battle scenario, saw 3 of his best friends die right in front of him, and literally like blown to bits. I mean, pieces. He was carrying body parts back because they don't leave anybody in the field.
No, they
don't.
You know
what I'm saying? They
terrible,
take them back.
Terrible stuff.
Oh, right, and he was wounded horribly and had suffered severe injuries. Came back, PTSD, the whole bit. And The medications, his mother showed me his medications. It was a basket full, and I mean like a wicker basket full of medications, 60-some different medications that were just making him feel like a zombie. And he didn't want to feel that way, and he started drinking and so forth. A friend of his, no pun intended, turned him on to cannabis as to help him, and he started to feel better, and he started feeling whole again. He started to feel like his life is getting together, and it was helping him through those PTSD episodes and such. Well, as he was getting ready for his operation at the VA, they tested him, and then sure enough, THC showed up in the system, and they put him in a 28-day detox. They treated him as if he was a criminal.
Well, they treated they treated him as if he was an addict.
Exactly, an addict, and he wasn't. And he was so depressed, and they said, "We're not going to give you an operation, and while you're using this stuff, and you're not going to get your operation, and so forth." And he didn't want to go back to those 60-some medications that he was being forced to take. And when he got home, he ended up shooting himself.
Oh, jeez. See, those are stories that you don't want to hear.
Is Dane Friedman is his name, and he was an American hero. He fought for his country. He did everything he loved his country. This guy was red, white, and blue all the way through, and he just wanted to feel like a human being, and they took it from him, treated him as if he was an addict, treated him as if he was some kind of problem person, and it was the war that messed him up, and so forth. He just wanted to feel whole again.
It just makes you want to cry, Senator. It really does.
I'm telling you, this is a horrible story. And if that story can be repeated, I bet, over and over and over again. This is totally crazy, this fear of this thing.
Well, it's hysteria, and it's self-induced hysteria, and it's of the worst kind. It's over greed and corruption, mostly, and control.
Yes, and let's be honest. I am certain Large Pharma doesn't want to lose market share.
No, there's no question. Pharmaceutical companies are one of the biggest, opposition forces to cannabis specifically. That and the alcohol industry.
I had a couple in my office this week. This week, their daughter has dropped epilepsy syndrome, where she'll just drop. Okay, out of the blue, she'll have a seizure, and she'll just fall down. She has to wear a helmet all the time. And they ran out of folks to see here in the local area, a neurologist, and they ended up going down to Thomas Jefferson in Philadelphia, and that neurologist there basically told him that cannabis is all psychological. They'll create more harm than good. I mean, here's a guy that would rather cut into a girl. They cut into her brain. They said, "Hey, we're going to do this operation, and this will stop your daughter's drop seizures." And guess 2 weeks after the operation, bam, she fell down. I mean, she still has them. And what's really mind-boggling to me, that I understand modern medicine, and I understand we want to go forward, and I understand all that. But why would you want to cut into somebody's body, especially the brain, which we really don't know that much about? Yeah. We really, really don't. The brain is an amazing organ that will never, I don't think, ever be able to be duplicated.
Supercomputer.
Right, exactly. It's a super computer.
Right.
It's unbelievable. Why would you want to cut into somebody's body before you would try an organic possibility?
It sounds like money to me.
Or they're that arrogant and they feel like they're God, and that they just know. And using this would be like giving some credibility to like a holistic doctor or something.
Right.
Or saying, God forbid. That's where some of this battle is. This is about folks who I guess they spend a lot of money for their degrees and such, but they're not gods. And I just cannot believe you would want to cut into somebody's body before you would try an organic plant.
Me either. The reason I asked you about the mirroring of the Controlled Substances Act is because, that's something that would need to probably be modified if there's a scheduling of it when it comes to, I don't know if you guys would consider maybe doing a split schedule for medical marijuana or something so that there's not that ugly beast hanging out for people to visit, because that's what they end up doing here in Michigan. Law enforcement's been railing against this since its inception, And, it's just unfortunate here that at the same time we passed the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act by people's initiative, overwhelmingly, very popularly, that we hired its chief opponent as the attorney general at the same time. He was the guy that was completely against the act. We enacted the act and hired its chief opponent as the AG in the same one fell swoop. So it's been very frustrating for us because, they've decided law enforcement, judges, really the criminal justice system as a whole, prosecutors, have decided to use the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act as a sword rather than its intended shield for patients. They've literally targeted...
I heard that's happening in other states, too. You're right. We're going to have to address that. There's no doubt about that. But it's always like one step at a time.
Right,
you get my drift.
No, sure, for sure. I just wanted to impart some insight there because, we've got a little bit of history here that might be able to give you guys some wisdom in moving forward so that you guys don't suffer some of the same problems that we've had here, because it's been long-lasting and terrible impacts. I had to go to one of our own town council representatives. We have a township here, and I'm fighting them currently because they passed an ordinance that said that if you're a caregiver here, you're a business and you're a dispensary, and you've got to have separation, and you've got to be in a special zone, and it would limit the number of caregivers in our area to be less than adequate to support the patients in the population locally. So I had to go and fight these guys because they passed a ban on medical marijuana originally, and I had to take them to court over that, and eventually they got knocked down by the Supreme Court as being unenforceable. It looks like they're going down that same rail again, and this is 8 years later, for crying out loud. So
why is that?
And here's the thing: one of the council members actually is on record as saying, "I want to make it as difficult as possible for caregivers to do what they do." And I went down there and I spoke in front of the council and I said, "Excuse me, but this guy," and he wasn't present, so I didn't have a chance. I didn't want to beat him up while he didn't have a chance to defend himself. But I did want to make mention. I don't understand why anybody would want to make it more difficult for people who are already terribly ill to get what they desperately need. Why would you want to make it any more difficult for them? Why? Can you tell me that? Nobody could give me that.
Can I ask you a question? And that's not really... How easy is it for people to ascertain alcohol in Michigan?
Well, they can go to any liquor store almost anywhere. I mean, they're barely separation between stores.
So the point is, you can get booze anywhere, and there's no problem, which is 114 times more deadly than marijuana.
Yes.
And so they're going to make it as hard as possible for someone to defend their life. And that to me is an attack on true liberty, because Thomas Jefferson said this. He said, a people that allow their government to dictate what foods they eat and what medicines they take, their souls are in the same sorry state as those souls that live under tyranny. And that is tyrannical.
It is.
To disallow me to fight for my life with my doctor, and to disallow me to have one more arrow in my quiver to fight for my life.
That's right.
That is unconstitutional. Oh my goodness. That is just ridiculous. I'm sorry. That ticks me off.
I'm telling you, you're my favorite legislative representative in the entire continental United States, Senator. I swear you are.
Well, thank you. I just try to keep it real, man. And here's the deal. This is a liberty thing. This is a right for me for quality of life. This is a right for me that I should be able to have. If I'm not causing any harm to you, and I'm not causing any harm to my neighbors, and I'm not causing any harm to myself, and if between me and my doctor and my life, it is nobody's business.
That's right. Oh, see, I told you this during the break, but I love having you on the air here and you've only been on twice. This is only your second comeback, and for good reason. But you're such a preacher. I love it. And I also I'm a staunch Democrat, and I've always had a difficult time relating to and agreeing with some of the people that are Republicans. And I just have no issue with you, Senator. I have none. Zero.
Well, I look, I don't know what I am. I know I'm a registered Republican.
Right.
And I'm not afraid to say this. And I go wherever my Constitution takes me.
Right.
And I'm working on civil asset forfeiture reform in Pennsylvania.
That needs to happen because it's such an incentive for police.
Exactly.
For police.
And I get accused of, well, you're working with the ACLU. Well, if it's about my civil liberties, you're doggone right I am. I just spoke to a group of real staunch conservatives, like a Tea Party group here in Pennsylvania, and I told them right off the beginning of my speech was that I wish you guys would be as worried about your 4th, 5th, and 6th Amendment rights as you are worried about your 2nd Amendment rights.
Yes. Man, my heart is so uplifted. Listen, I want to ask you this because from this standpoint, I think this is something also that might help in the future. And I just want to see if you agree with me first on this notion. I'm going to make the contention that cannabis should not be on the CSA, and here's why. I don't think that it should be scheduled amongst the list of drugs because, unlike other drugs, where let's say opiates, for example, opiates come from the poppy plant. You can isolate certain components of the poppy plant and use them, and you can do this amongst almost every other plant-based medicine, and almost every single medicine is plant-based, or it's produced by some biological mechanism.
Right.
And so the idea that you can isolate these things and test, because you have to isolate them to test for efficacy, because otherwise you've got this blend that you can't really predict. It's a hybrid. So you've got to isolate one thing, so says the FDA. Isolate, test for efficacy, test for potency, test for dose, test for overdose. And so this is where they come up with the formulation for how much and when and how long and all this stuff. And and they also test for efficacy and saying that, hey, this is, we've tested this as a placebo against a placebo, a double-blind trial, and we can isolate this and say for sure that these are the properties that we have to work with. Now, cannabis alternately does not fit this profile because cannabis, all the cannabinoids that make up the entourage, or I would even better say, I would rather not use the entourage effect. I would rather call it an ensemble because I think it more better describes what it is.
Ensemble, the synergism, the whole aspect of it.
So it's like a symphony. These cannabinoids, and they're different in every plant, but there's a symphony being played. And if you take out the horn section, or you take out the percussion section, or you take out the flutes, the winds, then you change the song entirely. So if you try to isolate THC and test for its efficacy and its effects, you
get Marinol.
Well, correct, and it doesn't end up having the intended effect that you're trying to get because THC is indeed balanced by the other cannabinoids present. In other words, it's offset by CBD specifically.
Yes,
and
you
so,
got it, Steve. No, you got it. In all honesty, I'm just going to tell you, this is going to really sound wacky. Cannabis should be regulated and watched like lettuce, broccoli, cauliflower.
Yep.
Making sure that there's no E. coli, any harmful bacteria that maybe through whatever in the soil, whatever. Make sure there's no mold, mildew, and so forth.
Pesticides, etc.
Now, for the medical purposes, I would say that if you're buying strains and you're a mother that is, or a parent that is buying an oil derived from the whole plant, that you're looking for something that's 20 parts CBD, 1 part THC, you want to make sure that's there.
Right.
So you do want some third-party lab testing.
Sure.
But we cannot think. See, that's the whole problem. We are trying to view this like traditional medicine.
Right.
That we're used to today. Actually, this is traditional medicine, the modern medicine, and we can't do that. We've got to allow the closer you keep it to the whole plant, the less problems you're going to have.
Yeah, you're correct. And here's another note. I don't know if you are aware of this or not. You've heard of Spice or K2, this kind of thing?
Yes. That's all synthetic bullcrap.
Yeah, but do you know where it came from?
No, where?
I'll tell you. It's an interesting story, just briefly. It's just anecdotal, and it's kind of sidelined to what we're talking about, but it underpins what we're saying here. Because of the rigid rules in place by NIDA, the National Institute of Drug Abuse, who has the keys, the lock and keys. They're the ones responsible for growing and distributing the cannabis in our nation's supply for medical purposes.
Right.
And for research. Because they're, and mind you, this is an organization that needs to justify its existence by finding the negative effects of cannabis. It's the National Institute of Drug Abuse. So they come up with these studies that are one-sided, and then they don't allow testing of it because they won't release it for testing. They won't give the scientists what they need for testing. It's so difficult to get this medicine from its official source for FDA study. So what the FDA would do when people would ask for a sample and begin a trial on this, a medical trial on this, they would say, number one, there's no accepted medical use, so they would cite the CSA standard. And then they would also say, if you want to conduct tests on cannabinoids, you must first synthesize them and then test them that way. So you're going to have to isolate them, synthesize them, and test them that way.
That's where it came from.
That's where it came from. These guys, these scientists, isolated these things independently, found a way to do it so they could run some tests on them, but found that this was an effective way of looking at this medicine because it really needed that entourage, and it upsets the whole system when you isolate. So they dropped these tests. So some smart people got together and figured out that there was a formula for producing these cannabinoids, and they figured out how they could spray some potpourri with them and sell them as fake cannabis. And this is what's getting people terribly sick, having terrible side effects from these,
Well, plus guys are using it if they're trying to evade a piss test, a urine test.
Sure.
Excuse me.
No, it's okay.
Urine test.
No, it's what it is.
And because it'll leave your body so soon. See, organic marijuana, cannabis, weed, whatever you want to call it, stays in your body for over 30 days because it likes it. So,
well, it's going to sit around because it's fat soluble and it's going and it wants to be there in reserve for future use.
Exactly.
Especially
that's a great point.
Especially in somebody that's inadequate, that has a system that's disrupted or affected in a negative way, where normal human cannabinoid production isn't happening properly. And I think that's I think what you were saying when you got people self-medicating and that they're drawn to it naturally. I 100% agree that there's a natural tendency for some part of the segment of the population to medicate with cannabis because it is effective in that way. It's curing their problem. So
I met two old guys at the farm show last year, 2015. It was the first week of January. It was right when we were just about ready to introduce SB3 because it was a new session time. There were two guys that were retired school teachers, and the one gentleman suffers from severe arthritis. And he came to the stand, and I thought they were going to be yelling at me because they looked like they were old, white, conservative-looking guys. And I thought, oh, my gosh, they're going to come and yell at me. And I went out, and I spoke with them. I was going to hand them some literature, and I said, how can I help you? And I was taken back to, hey, we want to help you. And the one gentleman told me his story. And he uses cannabis, and before, he didn't want to go out for breakfast with his buddies anymore because he just felt like a zombie. His daughter did some research and found out, and they were able to acquire. And this guy uses it in a hot tea.
Yeah.
And with some cream and so forth, and it actually is beneficial. So anyway, jokingly with the gentleman after he told his story and they signed up as volunteers for Campaign for Compassion, I said, hey, I'm sorry I don't have any samples, just jokingly with him. And the guy looked at me and he patted his right front pocket, and says, don't worry, I do.
That's a great story, Senator.
I mean, so I've met so many interesting folks that are doing this, not because they're trying to get buzzed. I met folks that just do it because if they had a really, really hard day, and it was, they would normally come home, they stop at the bar and have 3, 4, 5 martinis. Here, they just go home, relax, go to sleep, get up, no hangover, no feeling like crap, having breakfast, go to work.
Yes. And so many.
See, this is where we should be in PA, but we're going to have to walk into that. But at least we got it done, and now we got to get up and implement it.
Senator, it's a fine and lovely thing that you guys have done for the people there in Pennsylvania. I mean, honestly, it's monumental, is what it is. Listen, we're running up on break. We're actually way over time. I forewent the previous commercial break so we could lengthen our conversation. We got to go to break now, and I just want to thank you for coming on, Senator. Thank you so much. For people that are interested, I'm sure there's a place online where people can go to look up this legislation. It's Senate Bill 3. It was just enacted into public law. The governor signed it into law on Sunday. Look for it within 24 months, hopefully. Thanks again, Senator. All right.
You're getting the full melt.
Promotional consideration provided by NoSmell.com, pioneering the storage market for cannabis users. The NoSmell patented bag technology offers users 100% smell-proof detection from even the most sophisticated of noses. NoSmell.com, so nobody knows. When placing your order for a no-smell bag, make sure to use discount code FULLMELT and take 10% off the entire order. Learn more about no-smell technology at NoSmell.com.
Young students are our future. They're eager to learn, eager to succeed, eager to make the world a better place. And they want to make it to school safely. Share the road, take care when passing, and always leave 3 feet between you and people on bikes. Bikes are legal road vehicles. We're all drivers.
When you need legal help, you don't want to guess at who's standing next to you in court. And when it comes to a medical marijuana defense, it's even smarter to partner with a lawyer before you need one. Based in Royal Oak, David Rudoy has a proven history of not being afraid to take your case all the way to the Supreme Court and win. Find the law offices of Rudoy Law
at RudoyLaw.com.
RudoyLaw.com is a quick reference on your rights concerning Michigan medical marijuana
and up-to-date news.
That's RUDOI Law.com. Call 248-935-9074 now and talk about your legal needs, because at RudoyLaw.com, we don't just stand up for you, we stand up with you.
If you're like us, your pets aren't just animals. They're members of your family. Pet Pain CBD hemp oil drops are great for aging as well as active dogs and cats. Some people are apprehensive about hemp treatments for pets. They ask us, what are you smoking? Absolutely nothing, and neither will your pet. Like other hemp-based products for humans, the allure is all of the benefits of cannabis without any of the high. The CBD oil has shown to rejuvenate the bones, joints, brain, stomach, eyes, and heart. And the drops contain absolutely no corn, wheat, soy, artificial colors and flavors, or preservatives. Pick some up today. Visit petpain.com or ask for Pet Pain at your local pet store. Petpain.com. CBD relief for your pet.
Hey, it's Steve Green for the Sweet Leaf in Flint, because now getting safe access to medical cannabis patients in Flint, Michigan is never more welcoming. Presenting the Sweet Leaf, a brand new patient experience, bringing 12 carefully selected caregivers housed in 9 separate offices to distinctly assist you with their knowledge and reputation for excellent patient care. Classes and training coming soon in the large community room. Check it out in person, 400 South Door Highway, or call 810-259-2571. The Sweet Leaf Center in Flint, 810-259-2571. It's the Full Melt Radio Show.
Radio Show.
Well, as it turns out, we're back, and since there's only a couple minutes left in the show, and I was talking to the senator during the break, might as well kill the show with him. He's got a couple minutes to kick around. You were telling us about what a fantastic educational journey this has been. Are you telling me about this during the break? Can you repeat some of that for the listeners, please?
Well, I've helped write over 20 pieces of law, including this. Matter of fact, I just had 2 pieces. I had the Senate Bill 3 and another bill the governor just signed into law last week going forward. I never felt more right about any piece of legislation I did than I do about this. This is the right thing to do because it's the right thing to do. And there's just, it's so many different pieces that fit together for me that on my educational journey and some really great people I got to know and going forward. I'm very grateful I was able to be part of it, and and I just want to help continue to educate, not only in the state of Pennsylvania, but any place that they would want me to, because I was a guy that was a no that was turned into a passionate yes.
And it's clear, it's distinctly clear that that's what happened. And that's what amazes me so much about this situation, is because in so many other places that's just not been the case. So this stands out from the rest of the nation in a big way, and everybody owes a lot of that to you and Dalen Leach. Sincerely. I mean, if you guys didn't do this, and if those women didn't walk into your office and convince you of what needed to be done, this would be a different day today.
Well, you're right, and look, so many things happened in this bill that made it work going forward, and the grassroots were oh my goodness, they were fantastic, man. The founders would have been so proud of these citizen lobbyists who were advocating for their mothers and fathers, fighting for their children, fighting for their sons who came back from war, or siblings of folks with various diseases, advocating for their right to have safe, compassionate access. It was no big money. There was no big lobbying dollars. Nobody was taking out to dinner. It was pure old-fashioned, what I believe our founders intended us to do to address our government. It was awesome.
Well, and this is one of those things that will gather people around that rallying post, you know? I mean, for the people that understand this, that have not been confused by the prohibitionist messaging and the special interest, which is really hard to do in the face of Just Say No and all that, ONDCP national, drug control policy messaging. It's difficult to have a positive view of cannabis in the light of all of that. And of course we have this big war on drugs, and that's really working well. The trillions of dollars that we have spent since the 1970s is unbelievable. And I'm just addressing the problem. But here, marijuana, cannabis, hemp should not have ever been part of that. No.
This should have been totally separated from that. And it's a shame that it has been, because this is a real alternative. This is another arrow in the quiver of a sick person in their fight for their life, and that I believe they should have access to, and I think we're going to be able to do that here in PA.
Have you had a chance? Are you a reader? Do you read much?
Yes, I'm a big reader.
So I don't know if you've had a chance to read the book by Johann Hari called Chasing the Scream, the first and the last days of the war on drugs.
Oh, no, I haven't. What was the name of that again?
The name of it is called Chasing the Scream, and it's by Johann... Chasing the Scream. The Scream, yes. And it's by Johann Hari, and it's called... the subtitle is The First and the Last Days of the War on Drugs.
First and the Last Days of the War on Drugs.
Yes, and what I really love... I interviewed this author from England. He's a Brit. And I interviewed him, it was right around... It might have been right before I talked to you last year. But
spell his name for me.
It's JOHANNHARI.
HARI.
Johann Hari. And
you got it.
He that guy. I think what fascinated me about his portrayal of this issue was his personification of the issue through telling the story through the eyes of the people who were there at the time. So he tells the story. Literally, this book starts out talking about young Harry Anslinger and how he formed his opinion about drugs. And so it's told from his perspective in the beginning, and then it changes as it goes through the book. It's a wonderful, quick read. It's a paperback. It's been out for a couple of years. But I don't usually read for entertainment. I usually just read for when I'm interviewing authors. I always read the book. But that is a fascinating book, and what makes it fascinating is not only its historical perspective on what happened and why, but its personification by telling it through the eyes of the people that were there at the time. I mean, he tells it from Billie Holiday's point of view. He tells it from a transvestite's point of view in New York City, a hooker. It's just an amazing story that he tells, and I think you'd be fascinated by that book.
I'm getting the book. Thank you for sharing that with me.
It's my pleasure.
Very much. I appreciate it. I'll definitely get it. I'm a big reader, and this subject matter, especially since I've been fighting on this issue, my eyes have been open on so many levels on this whole war on drug aspect, and I'm definitely getting the book. By the way, Harry Ensinger was from Pennsylvania guy.
He is.
Yeah, he went to Penn State. He was born out in the Altoona area, Pennsylvania area, Western PA.
Yep, it's a hilly turf out there. I remember Altoona. I used to do fairs and festivals, and so I remember pulling into Altoona to there's like a rec center or something that we did a
Did you say fruits and vegetables?
No, it was fairs and festivals.
Oh. I was a broker.
So, yeah, I used to sell incense and incense burners and candles and crystals and that kind of stuff out at festivals and at fairs. But we did one in Altoona, and I remember how hilly it was. There was very mountainy, and we came there in the fall, so it was really picturesque and colorful. It's a tiny little town, Altoona. But it's you go back to Harry Anslinger's days in the early 1900s. It's a different day, and it's an interesting story. The thing about Harry Anslinger that's fascinating now is that he is buried there in Pennsylvania. His gravesite is there in Pennsylvania, and people visit his gravesite. Some to celebrate, and some to unfortunately desecrate. It's
propaganda, and when you really boil it all down, it really came down the epitome of how special interests can just do damage.
Well, and the funny thing about Harry Anslinger is that he was not anti-pot until he became head of the then defunct alcohol people. All the people that were in the Federal Enforcement Police for alcohol. He took over that. He took over that branch and converted them. It was the only way he could save that department and keep the head of it. Converted them to the DEA is basically what they became. So it's a fascinating story.
Wow.
But we're in a modern day and age, and we're moving forward, and Pennsylvania is spearheading that charge, and I thank you so much for it, and I'm sure the people of Pennsylvania are so much better off for it. I know that they're going to look back at this.
We're going to have to make it work now, and the fight continues, and it's going to continue. Say the journey is going to continue, and we're going to have to continue to educate, and to get us to where we need to be.
Right. Senator, we're at the end of the show. I thank you for coming on once again.
Thank you.
Senator Mike Folmer from Pennsylvania. Fascinating legislation you passed, and it's a wonderful thing. So we'll talk to you sometime soon.
Well, thank you so much, Steve. You have a good day, good evening, and thank you for having me on.
The Melt Show is a production of TFM Media.